Five, four, three.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate, Oh My Feelings. How are you, good sir?
I'm good. How you doing, buddy?
Ooh, now you're loud. Holy hell. Okay, now you're loud. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go and watch a movie. You watch it, come back to us, we break it down, and we spin it all around, basically nerd out on it completely. This week, last week, we asked you to go and watch Monty Python's Life of Brian so we can discuss it with our special guest, Andy Mack from I Don't Like This channel. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for inviting me, guys. This is one of my favorite films, so I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this.
Awesome. How many times did you manage to watch it this week?
The Life of Brian, I only watched it twice this week.
Nice.
But I think maybe 200 times I've seen that movie. Yeah, I mean, I remember when it came out. That's how old I am.
It's fine. It's all good. All my feelings. How are you, sir? I know you were very, very busy bee this week. So how many times did you manage to actually watch it?
Twice overall.
Nice. Right.
So.
And I didn't expect that. I watched it about 3 times. One of them very, very slowly and meticulously, which doesn't help because I realized my brain is just like Sam Beckett's from Quantum Leap. I have holes in my head, and it didn't help when I was ill throughout the week and did another side project altogether. But I did manage to watch it 3 times. Hopefully, I remember the order in which things happen. That's no joke. All right, cool. Let's say hello to James Dosher in the chat, which we appropriately, he was in the middle of writing something. So it's a good thing that he stopped. Now he'll collaborate and listen to us meme all over this movie. And we'll start with, we'll start at the beginning, behind the screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the Screens is where we go to me and we talk about everything that is behind the scenes, production stuff, everything that has to do with this movie. Let us begin. The original title for the movie was actually Jesus Christ and the Lust for Glory. It was
Well, actually, that was a joke. To be fair.
wait. It was suggested on a whim by Eric Idle while the crew was on a pub crawl, which I mentioned in the backstage, in Amsterdam. It was just they were just moving from pub to pub, drinking their way through, and Eric Idle was like, "Ma, let's do Jesus Christ and the Lust for Glory." Now everybody liked the title. But when they actually got to do the research, because we talked about it last week, the Monty Pythons don't like to just write stuff. They like to do some research. And when they went into like reading biblical text and actually going and watching old like biblical epics like Ben-Hur and all that stuff, they realized that Jesus was actually not funny. They were like, we can do stuff with the biblical things or the biblical themes, but it's just not funny. And Terry Jones, who also had an extra
So you're
thought.
saying they read the Bible and went, wow, this is not a comedy.
No, it's not like and his teachings is not funny. Like you can make jokes and stuff, but it's not punchy enough.
No.
And like I said, Terry Jones even thought that they can do it, but after watching all these films that everybody like talks like this and like very, pompous and stuff, he also said that the costumes would probably be very boring. Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Oh boy.
It'll come back to bite Terry Jones literally in the ass. John Cleese said that he was very once they started to do the research, he was very happy that all the Pythons had sort of similar attitudes towards religion in general, not faith, the general attitudes of dogmatic law and sort of like what we talked about when we kind of mentioned Kevin Smith and Dogma. We haven't dived in deep into it, but sort of like we know where Jesus's teachings were, but we know what religion does with it. And that kind of gave him the idea because they actually started writing different parts of it. And when they got to they wanted to do Jesus with the Sermon on the Mount. And again, it wasn't funny for them. What was funny is that they thought about, well, at that time, Jesus didn't have a mic, no boosting, no, audio. What would the people at the back of the line would hear, would even comprehend? And they thought, well, it's probably people in the front hearing it and then transferring in the back, sort of like a broken telephone. And it would make into a very funny bit where the people at the back don't really get the actual meaning. They just get it secondhand. And that seems funny for them. And then that kind of started the train to get to where we are.
Blessed are the cheesemakers.
Blessed are the cheesemakers. So
What is blessed are the Greek? Oh, the Greek?
yeah,
The meek. Oh, it's nice they're getting something.
They're fine.
exactly. One of the things they knew going into it that they probably would meet sort of religious zealots. One of the main people was a person named Mary Whitehouse, and
If you need a bit of background on Mary Whitehouse, just let me know.
please, in like 3 sentences, who is she?
Okay, I think to put it into, I think most American people have heard of Tipper Gore.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, Mary Whitehouse was a very old, white-haired old lady in the UK in the 70s and early 80s who was their equivalent of Tipper Gore. She was outraged by everything. too much nudity, too much violence, too much bad language on TV. And Mary Whitehouse made it her mission to wipe all that out and make sure that everything on TV was good, clean, British, wholesome fun.
A shithead. Okay. One
Killjoy.
one of the main
yeah.
things that going into writing the script is the fact that Mary Whitehouse and her group won a court battle because they sued a newspaper, a gay newspaper, for writing a poem about Jesus. So they sued the gay news, and they won. And the newspaper or the people who wrote the poem got a blasphemy charge. So there was a law about like blasphemy, especially Christianity, because back in the day. So they knew what they were going into, and parts of the reason why they shifted from Jesus to Jesus adjacent was that. So they had bits and pieces.
So in that way, they could actually skirt it by making a
bypass
parody
the-
instead.
Yeah, bypass the blasphemy laws. So what they did was they had a few stuff written down already, and they said, well, let's just go to Barbados, spend a couple of weeks without the family, like they did before, and just hammer out the script, which they did. Michael Palin thought they would just screw off, but as they got to the place, it was very easy. So everybody was focused, even Graham Chapman. They were very focused. Now, last week we said Graham Chapman kind of kicked his alcoholism bucket during the Holy Grail. I did an extra research. No, he did not. One of the issues was Graham Chapman doing the main role. And what about his constant drinking? His partner, I saw an interview, said that at the time of Life of Brian, he was drinking 2 large bottles of gin every day. Every day. It's an insane amount. Now, when it came to the shoot, he was clean. He's like, I'm not going to drink, which is very dangerous, by the way. I'm not going to drink. And he did not drink throughout the shoot. I'll get to the shoot in a bit.
So that must have been when after this, before moving on life, when he got clean.
After this, around after they did the United States tour, that's where he decided to check himself in and be completely clean. And by the time 1980, he was clean and sober.
Okay.
By the time he went to, he interviewed at Parkinson's, the guy called Parkinson.
It was just called Parkinson. He was like that was like going on Jay Leno or something at the time. That was Parky was an institution.
Yeah, once he did that show, it was like he was already coming out, I think, at the time. I'm not sure, but he definitely said in 80s, that's where it was done. I was completely done. So when they were in Barbados, they kind of settled into that through line story. All the different skits kind of meshed into one through line, one continuous story. And they settled in for Brian Cohen, which was mistakenly thought as a messiah, because at the time in Judea, there were lots of doomsayers at the time. There were lots of false prophets, and they were like, oh, people were looking for a messiah, and they just found one. EMI, it's a company that had studios and had production offices. Said that they would fund the movie. Not the head guy, but one of the middlemen read the script, had to approved it, give it a $4 million budget, and send him off on his way. Bernard Delfont, the head of EMI, got to the script at the very last minute, meaning They already chose Tunisia as a location. They hired extras. They already built the sets, and they were about a week and a half to 2 weeks before actually going to Tunisia to shoot the whole thing. Bernard Delfont read the script, head of EMI, is like, I am not putting out any script that is so blasphemous and so against Jesus, and it's not coming out of my studio. And he said, they pulled everything out. They pulled all the money out, and they just, at this point, there was no movie made. Of course, the Pythons have, and we talked about it when we talked about the Holy Grail, lots of musician friends were backing the Pythons because they just wanted to see what they make, right?
Well, and also at that time too, this was still during that massive tax increase epidemic. Andy, you can speak more to that. At the time, like every single thing that they would actually fund into it would still go back to the BBC, which would and essentially give them a tax write-off.
Yeah, at the time in the UK, I mean, I think like late 70s, just before, the tail end of Labour being in, especially like rock stars and movie stars and all these guys, they were paying like 80% tax to the government. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of them moved to France and abroad and everything. And yeah, they would throw money at anything just to say, yeah, it's a tax write-off. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, at this point, the guy who funded the movie was George Harrison, one of the Beatles. He was living in the States with his American wife, and they had a friend, one of the producer's friend, a guy called John Gladstone, knew a guy who knew him. They sent the script, and they were on the way. Like they sent the script beforehand, and they flew to George to try and convince him. By the time they got to George, it was like, yeah, how much do you need? And they said, well, we need $4 million. And he said, no problem. And he put a mortgage against his house for $4 million. And he didn't tell his wife. And when she knew, she said to him, you should have told me, but I would probably say no. So... And he even said it was terribly frightening. That's what he called it. It was terribly frightening to put up your house as a collateral. But he got it made. John Cleese wanted to be Brian. Main reason for that is he just wanted to be the same character from the start of the movie till the end. Because what they usually did was they had him playing all sorts of different characters, like they all did. It's like the 6 of them between them. I think each one, all of them together, got like about 40 to 45 different characters throughout the movie. Some of them reoccurring, some of them not, but around 40 different characters. Mm-hmm. The entire troupe said flat out no, only because John Cleese would be funnier if he did the Centurion role, if he did the Reg role. He would just be funnier. And Graham Chapman would have been... and they all kind of said, well, Chapman is the better actor of all of us. And Cleese was disappointed, but
also I could not imagine another one of the cast is like saying the line, "You fucking nicked your beauty."
and the thing is this, Graham Chapman was the best actor, but one of the things that was like sitting on Cleese's mind was, I'm writing, this is his like writing partner. That's how they divided everything. Yeah. And he was alcoholic, and it was like, will Graham Chapman be able to like muster through this? Like they knew how like on the nose he was when they did the Grail. It was like touch and go every single day. But when they got to the set, he saw he was sober, and we started to do the first few scenes. It was like, you guys were completely right. Completely right. When it comes to the actual shooting of the thing, there were 0 hiccups. Like, it was the smoothest ever. They appointed Terry Jones to be the director. No more double duty. So no more.
So no more the infighting between the Terrys. Yeah.
No infighting between the Terrys. Terry Gilliam was in charge of how things looked, but otherwise it was Terry Jones all the way. Gilliam was even like glad Terry Jones took on the mantle, and Terry Jones thought Gilliam was cross, so it's like he was annoyed with him throughout the shoot, and only later on, once they kind of wrapped up, was like, no, I wasn't like disgruntled or angry. I was happy you did this. I was like free to do all my artsy stuff. So it was like Terry Jones has misunderstood something that was not even there. And on the whole, everybody was relaxed. They had no problems with the extras, no major like weather stuff. It was just smooth and everybody was relaxed. Plus, Chapman didn't drink, so there was no issues there as well. So it was just, there's nothing to say. Apart from the fact that they were surprised by the extras. There's a moment where Brian comes out, with the window and everybody's there yelling at them, where the Messiah is awakened, all that stuff. The extras didn't know English at all. They were just mirroring what Terry Jones yelled at him when they shot those scenes. He was yelling the sentence, and then they got back with him like with an echo, and he was like, "Oh, that's nice, cool." And even that, which was they thought it would be troublesome, wasn't a big issue at all.
Oh, there had to be a couple of outtakes there where they knew, one of the cast knew it just had to fuck with them.
Probably. The crucifixion scene, that whole thing they had to build, they built it, no problem. Once they got to the scene to shoot it, as they were approaching, they said, "This is very eerie." So the whole set seemed very eerie to them. Now, every single one of them, and you can tell, had a platform to stand on, right? They were tied, not with nails, but they had a platform to stand on. And it took...
What's so odd is, we'll talk about that later, but the only person who had pseudo nails in their wrists was Mr. Cheeky.
Yes.
But he's the one who got taken off right away.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
But the whole scene took about 3 days to shoot. And I think John Cleese had the flu, and it was very uncomfortable for him to stand there for about 10 hours a day. But they were there for about 10 hours a day. There's one deleted scene that was in the crucifixion scene. The suicide guys were supposed to be like they were supposed to be Jews, but they were Nazi Jews. You can tell by the World War I helmet that they have, and the fact that the main guy, or most of them, had the Hitler stash. And it was, let's say, very, very German. The guy's name is actually Otto. He had a name. They had a full script.
Well, and also, too, if you go by what their name is, it goes by what the National Socialist Democratic.
I know. But they ended up cutting away the scene because it was skirting the line. It was edgy, and Gilliam thought it should stay in, but they decided not to go full beans into that storyline. They could have.
Kind of glad they didn't.
I
think it would have taken way too much away from it. Like, what's interesting is would be kind of interesting if they would have kept the actual, like, if they would have actually had the swastika on there, just so it would make sense why everybody said, like, "Oh, we hate them," or no, not them. But
the swastika was not even a thing. It was just tongue in cheek. Okay?
No, but to have that overall thing prevalent throughout as a theme. But
kind of, I get what you're saying, but yeah, it like I said, it was skirting the line. Gilliam wanted it in. The other guys were like,
A little too much.
I think Terry Jones was the last call on that. I think, and he's like, okay, it's fine. We've made our point so far. Right. Shoot ended. Everything was okay. Now we have to promote the movie. There are snippets from the script that was leaked and sent to Mary Whitehead. Now she comes back into the fold. White House, sorry. Not
Mary Whitehouse.
Mary Whitehouse. It was the scene with the ex-leper. And the problem with that scene is the fact that the ex-leper says, like, Jesus cured me, the bloody good do-gooder. And that incensed them. Like, they sent messages to EMI and the BBC. It's like, what are you doing? They couldn't do anything about it because it was a full-on private production because George Harrison put up the money for it. And they thought, well, if we're going to do like these big rallies, that's going to defeat our point. So what they did was they called different councils throughout the UK and asked them to ban the movie because you couldn't have an entire UK ban, but you could ban it locally. So they sent tons of letters to all different councils around the UK, and some of them said, no, we won't have this movie on. But in London, it was free to go. And by the way, Ireland banned the movie outright. And it wasn't a shock to the Pythons because the Holy Grail was banned in Ireland too.
Yeah, I think the Catholic Church, they still have a very big influence over there. So yeah, I think they do what Rome tells them, and if Rome doesn't agree with it, then it's not happening.
Yeah, but the Pythons kind of expected it in the UK. What they didn't expect is when they reached New York and they wanted to premiere the movie, the people who were on the picket line were about 1,000 rabbis. Because, again, somebody saw the movie, leaked it, and they were incensed. Not because they're like major Jesus supporters, but in the stoning scene, Cleese is wearing a full-on priest garb, like real priest garb, like in the tabernacle, and they were incensed that it was it's sacred garb, blah blah blah, and you're like taking a piss and all that stuff, and the religious it used to be the proper it used to be the proper religious right. We're piggybacking off of that. Like rabbis and saying, oh, this is a blasphemous and we won't have it and we won't have it in the South. And it showed everywhere. Yeah, Andy, what you want to say?
Sorry, I was just saying hello to Jay. Jay's just dropped in the chat. So I was just like, hi, Jay.
Hey, Jay. Have I missed the game? No, you haven't missed the game. It's coming. All right. Few more things. Once the movie came out, Cleese and Palin went on a show to debate a couple of religious people. One of them is Marvin Stokewood, the Bishop of Suffolk. I'm saying it correctly. And Malcolm Muggeridge, who was a friend of Mary Whitehouse. He was a born-again Christian.
An intellectual. Malcolm Muggeridge was known for being an intellectual.
Yeah. Now, Cleese and Palin both thought that these two guys are very disingenuous. First of all, because Malcolm was known to be a heavy drinker and a fornicator. And Marvin Stokewood, even though he was the Bishop of Suffolk, was also an alcoholic, but he was mega gay. And they were, high, preachy, and mighty, and you're making a mockery of Jesus on the sermon. And one of the things Palin was really angry, apparently, more angry than Cleese, was, yeah, but you don't understand. We're not mocking Jesus. We're mocking the people at the back of the line. It shows to me that you haven't even watched this movie why are you critiquing us? It's like, and Malcolm was like, I have seen this movie, and you make a mockery of our Savior and our Lord. It's like, fine. That encounter was spoofed 2 days later on the it's called the Not the 9 O'Clock News. It's a skit show spearheaded by Rowan Atkinson, the guy who played Mr. Bean. And what they said was Rowan Atkinson played the bishop, and the bishop did a film about the life of John Cleese. And the guy who fake debated him, was a guy that was like a Monty Python connoisseur. And he said that John Cleese's life is not to be mocked because he's very sacred to British comedy, something of that vein. It's like, it's very funny, and I'm doing it very injustice. It was just, it was ridiculed by comedians who knew Monty Python and grew up on Monty Python. So, yeah, and that's about what I've got. You got anything else? Feelings?
No, but I told you this is your week.
I know.
Next week is there's going to be a little bit of, I would just say a little bit of an interlude right here before we go into probably our first segment before we start the review, because we're already at half an hour.
Yeah,
I know Jay is already chomping at the bit for Missing Marquee. So
yeah, let's do that.
But no, what I was going to say is this, unfortunately, after watching it a couple of times, this is now my least favorite of the Monty Python movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm incensed. Never mind.
and he's like,
Mr. Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movie text written off. We display them, and Andy will have to guess which movie this is, and I will share my screen because I haven't done it, and we are a go.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
That is correct. I'm gonna punch in a little.
Flatliners.
Flatliners is correct.
I don't know that one.
It's a 90s horror movie.
1998, rip off a Scream, kind of.
Kind of. They took the Scream formula and tried to...
Well, they were trying to make not really a spoof, but they were trying to... Yeah, Jay's right. I know what you did last summer.
I know what you did last... That comes up real slow. But yeah, I know what you did last summer.
Oh, this movie's so good.
Oh.
That's Nicolas Cage, and that's...
Yeah, I've seen the movie. Moonstruck.
Moonstruck is correct.
Oh, Men in Tights. Robin Hood, Men in Tights.
Correct.
Is that Diaz?
That is Cameron Diaz,
Yes.
and no, it is not. It is not Charlie's Angels.
No, I don't know that one.
Okay, let's see. Jay's here. James Josher's here. Let's see if the chat knows. Jay says no. He's like, Charlie's Angels. No. He doesn't know what it is.
There's a very infamous scene in this film.
Yes, a scene where Salma Blair, the girl on the right, does a very nice blowjob, but she has a tongue ring, and it gets stuck with the guy's Prince Edward, or what do you call it? Prince Albert. Yeah. It is called The Sweetest Thing.
Terminator. Oh, is that True Grit?
True Grit, the remake. Can't believe I've got two Carrie Elves movies in this.
The thing in the background kind of gives it away.
Background kind of gives it away.
Yeah, Jay.
No, I don't know.
Twister.
It is Twister. One more.
Oh, X-Men.
Which one?
Oh,
Let me punch him a little bit.
Is it Origins?
Not Origins, no.
No, I'm not a big superhero fan. So,
I know.
Well, if you see Bishop and you see the McAvoy X,
Yeah,
Professor X, yeah.
it is
Nope,
not
Jay,
first
you're
class.
wrong. It's
Not
the next
first
one.
class. It's the other one.
second class.
No,
I've got no idea.
it is
No, it's actually X-Men Economy Row.
X-Men. We spent a ton of money on this and still haven't. No, they did make their money back, but
Oh yeah, they
they
did. Oh
spent
yes.
a bunch of money on this. It is Days of
Days of
Future Past.
Yeah.
Oh, I would
Yep.
never have
Jay's
got
got
that.
it. Jay's got it. All right. That
I
is
don't think
it.
I didn't do too bad, did I?
No,
No.
not at all. All right. Let's start. Let's begin at the beginning. Now, I did mention that, like the Pythons did a real deep research into this, and to me, it shows at the very first scene. And where am I getting at? The three men were reportedly two regular men and one from the land of Kush, which is the land of Africa, basically. So they kind of got it right with the blackface thing. But who cares, right?
Still wouldn't have gotten away with it today, though. It'd be like, oh, yep, canceled. Like 30 seconds into the film. No.
Yeah. I don't even care. But the fact is, what they're trying to do is give you a false sense of, oh, I know where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
This is the because it says Life of Brian, and they're starting off with the sort of like the familiar, the three wise men going in, finding baby Jesus, and they're going in and they are giving his mother all these gifts, and she even says, "And next time, don't bring in so much myrrh." Like,
No, next time you can forget the myrrh.
yeah. And then
What's his sign? Oh, he's a Capricorn.
yeah, what's he like? He's the savior. What? All of them are? No, just him.
Because that'd be a lot of them.
And then, of course, they come back, they take all the different gifts, push her off, and go out, and we see the actual baby Jesus, even with the big halo, and the two guys, like you saw in all the textbooks, as if, right? It's like, oh, it's not about Brian, it's not about Jesus, it's about Brian. And then it starts with that amazing Brian song. Not the Brian song, but
Brian.
yeah. Like super animated by Terry Gilliam. The fact that they're at a certain point, they're like picking up lots of pieces along the way, and it just travels through the screen. One of my favorite, let's just say this. More of a regular kind of credits scene, but in the Python way, right? So you got regular credits, but it doesn't stop like in Holy Grail, but it does kind of have that Terry Gilliam look to it, the Terry Gilliam animation.
It's amazing what he was able to do with the technology that he had at the time. It was just mind-blowing when you watch those things back.
Yeah.
Moving from this also into the meaning of life we're going to discuss next week, but everything with the Galaxy song and the way he was actually able to use early CGI during that. It's like Terry Gilliam was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a big story about Terry Gilliam and the meaning of life. It's just crazy. Anyway, and the movie, as soon as the credits roll, the movie kind of settled into telling us the full story. And one of the things about the story is how do we start, right? That's one of the things they kind of figure out. Well, Jesus was a baby, and then he got to like 6 years old, and then he kind of disappears and then reappeared as the guy who did the sermons. That's the story, or at least that's how it's told. So they immediately go to the Sermon on the Mount and to their initial kind of
But it's a Saturday afternoon,
yeah.
about tea time.
Yeah. It has to be one of the most British things I've ever seen ever in a movie, just to give us the exact time of it, right?
About tea time.
Just so you know. And you have all these people at the back can barely hear. You got the Roman soldiers guarding this rabble rousers of Jews. And they're all arguing about who... like, what is he saying? What is this thing? And it turns out to be just, a big fight about a big
Who's
nose.
got the biggest nose?
Well, because they have
Where are you from?
the big
Coke
nose.
City.
Yeah, exactly, Andy. The big nose, that's a running through line in this film, just as in the Holy Grail, the animal abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got Brian's
Mr. Cheeky constantly going, what about you and your big nose?
what is Andy? What is that accent? Where's it from, Mr.
What,
Cheeky?
you're about Mr. Cheeky?
Yeah,
That'd
like
be
Eric Idle's.
That'd be a London Cockney accent, innit? Where are you from? Big
Yeah.
nose. Oi, look at that. Yeah, that's an East End of London accent. That one.
Nah, I was like, I know it's a Cockney, but in Cockney one can be like one of like Guy Ritchie's characters, which
I
is
think that's
even
more of a modern day thing. That's sort of like a Dick Van Dyke 60s, 70s. All right, I'm a cheeky chappy, innit? Yay! That it's that kind of thing. I think it's just a Cockney whitewash. It's all encompassing.
And then, of course, we have that transition to the stoning thing as Brian and his mother go and they buy a packet of gravel and some
and the fake beard.
beards. And you're just
And the first one's like, wait, are there any women here today?
No.
No.
The fact that they have to set it up. So the setup is like Brian is asking his mother is why aren't women allowed in the stoning? And he's like, she doesn't really have an answer for him, right? She really doesn't have.
Well, it's said we're not allowed.
We're not allowed. Okay.
You're only making it worse for yourself.
Yeah.
How could I make it any worse because of Jehovah?
The fact that it is blasphemy to say that it is still to this day. If I go downstairs to my very religious neighbor and say that, he would wince. He wouldn't punch me in the face or stone me, but he would wince.
It's like,
It is very not allowed to say Jehovah around here.
You see, that always confused me when I was younger because I always just associated that with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I didn't realize that that was the thing.
It is the thing. One of the of course I have it still on screen. The fact that it comes back around to the guy conducting the whole thing, because everybody knows you're not supposed to say Jehovah, and we says even don't throw anything until I blow this whistle, even if somebody says Jehovah, and they just pile on and just throw a big rock at him and kill him. It's like, good job, girls. Kind of like, yeah, everybody's there as a girl. Even though it's so funny because half the people there, the extras, were not women. It's like Eric Idle playing a woman that threw the stone, but he's a man. It's like,
oh, it's all of them except for John
thing
Cleese.
though in the Monty Python TV series. They regular dressed up as women and did the over the top. Running around hitting things with their handbags and stuff. It was just pure genius.
I mean, all the extras were like Tunisian people that they brought in that were just following along. They were all men, not women, but they were told to do like a squeaky voice. And they had
just as an aside, just a thing that Eric Idle said many, many years ago when they were recording the original first bits of The Flying Circus. Said, well, if it was good enough for Shakespeare, it's good enough for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having us dress up as women.
Yeah.
That's the only time it's acceptable, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, the only like there were a few women extras there, but the only one that you can actually hear talking is the actress who played Judith. She's in that mix to have that extra squeakiness in the audio.
Oh, and also,
Do you know what? Can I just say that was probably one of the first Bushes I ever saw.
Me too.
And what a bush, because the reaction shot even from Mama and Baby Boy Cohen.
That was a big 70s Bush.
Yeah.
Speaking,
Also, I think Connie Booth was in that too, because later she's the one who holds the gourd, the follower with the gourd.
yes.
But she was also the witch in the Holy Grail. But she's also in this scene too.
Yes. And then, of course, as they go home, they have a little bit of like extra information just about Brian, as his mother kind of divulges the fact that he's not completely Jewish. He's
Oh no!
Roman.
So we bypassed the leper scene then.
No, this is before the leper scene.
No, this hasn't happened
It's
yet
after?
because that
See,
happens when
I-
he's running away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Because it's when they're home. The leper scene, I think, by far one of the best bits. That line, I love it so much. Though pleasing some people, that's what Jesus said.
Yes. And there's another thing that gets introduced here is it's the haggling bit. I think it's introduced in when they haggle for the packet of gravel thing. And you've got this guy's doing the haggling, and it comes back around later on when Brian is trying to escape, and he wants the beard. And the guy, the Eric Idle merchant, kind of like, you have to haggle for this. This is not how it's done, right? You have to haggle for this beard. But the big nose and the haggling is right there, and the fact that Jesus cured him, the bloody do-gooder. Sorry.
Bloody do-gooder.
And back home,
Would you come back and give me a lame leg for just a day or two?
Yeah.
Not like leprosy, because that was a real pain in the ass.
And the thing is, Brian kind of discovers his dad was supposedly
He was Roman. He was Roman, Brian. So, you were R-worded for YouTube. Well,
No.
at first.
Well, yeah. And then, of course, when he leaves, he's like, "Hello, Centurion," and he drops down to his. She drops down to her knees. Like,
Oh, come on.
Oh,
The entire bit where everyone who is obviously, Meph, you know them, but even Andy, you and I who are not Jewish, we're like, wow, that's a lot of Jewish racial slurs right there.
yes.
Well,
Real quick.
Like the whole big nose thing. I mean, that's just a bit of a racist trope.
Are you saying, Andy, it's right on the nose?
It's right on the nose.
I'll let you have that one.
You opened that door, I had to walk right through.
For the record, for YouTube and the surrounding, I don't care. I really don't care.
Oh, I know.
He knows.
I know. I knows. Now comes to the bit where I liked for the very first time, and it's still relevant today. I saw so many documentaries. There are like 4 different documentaries just on this movie alone. Okay. In one of them, he said that the guy who talked, he's a comedian, not very well known, at least not to me. Don't remember the name. He said that communism should have been completely eradicated after this bit. And what I mean is not the Roman Colosseum, but a Colosseum where they had gladiators, where I don't think there was an actual one. not one that they proved was used for gladiatorial games.
I
It's
wouldn't think so
these
because most, and that's what the odd thing is. What's played off later is the things that the Roman Republic did for that they go like, oh well, we can get rid of all those things except for the good things that we like. We can keep those
The
people here,
roads.
but yeah, roads, aqueducts, sewage, peacekeeping. Yeah, we're fine
Yeah,
with
but
that.
apart from that, what have the Romans actually given us?
yes.
But in most societies, though, given the fact that I love Roman history so much, I've done a lot of research about Roman history and dissertation about Rome. Anyway, in most places where they would actually take over, they would allow same kind of cultural traditions to exist, and they would not actually impose Roman cultural norms upon that society. So, as you said, Meffistoe, there's no actual evidence of a Colosseum being there because they didn't have that as part of their cultural heritage.
Yeah, I don't like. I'm a good like. I'm a history buff myself, let alone this area. I don't remember there was one that they could say this was for gladiatorial games at the time. Blah blah blah. There's not much left. Most of the stuff that is left here is the Byzantine era, which is the Eastern Roman Empire, if you know your history, not the Western Roman Empire.
Well, if you lads had stopped blowing everything up, there'd probably be a bit more left.
Well, that's true. What I want to get is this group. This was, we'll call them socialists, not communists, but they have
The
same-
Judea People's Front.
Yes, and the fact that they're splitting off into different groups, this
People's
is
Front of
so
Judea.
yeah, it is so much like we know from socialists from today, from 20 years ago, from 40 years ago. It's the same bit, including something that is like not touched on in any movie. This is 79. This is 44 years old movie about the fact that a guy wants to be a woman.
Loretta.
And Loretta is the fact that he has a right to be a woman. He has the right to bear children. And
But
even
where would the
then-
fetus just stay?
No. Actually, they were like, "What's the point?"
Yeah, what's
It's
the point?
symbolic.
And to me, it's like, and it's, and he ends it up with the line. It's like, it's your right to be a loony. It's like, yes. And it's sadly really relevant today for some people.
It really is. I
It
mean,
drives
like,
me insane.
if you're on Red Pill Twitter at all, then this gets shown every few days as just an example of like, you know,
Yeah.
thought we'd have learnt by now, but it's kind of come full circle again.
Yeah, but you know, like you said, it's cyclical. It comes back around, and that's why this movie, in many ways, or at least that particular bit, will always be relevant because of the notions in which you're either living in a fantasy world or living in an actual real world where there's consequences. But they do placate Loretta. They go with it.
Well, even there, like it's even when Judith comes in at the end of the film. Yeah, sorry, Andy, we jump all over the place. But this is kind of
No, go for it.
No, no,
go
no.
for it.
when he
I
comes
can
in like,
keep up.
oh well, no, we have to have action now, and we're like we have to go save Brian now. Like this is our moment of action. Let's get to it. And she goes, "Oh, you're useless." And it's like, well, this is what we get when we give the feminists a vote. And Loretta goes, "Hey," I'm like, "Sorry, Loretta."
It's super relevant because it does kind of mirrors how socialists operate in their own community. I know because I've been there.
Yeah, I mean,
Look
it's
at-
like they don't agree with something, but they'll just say, "Yeah, we agree with it," just to, placate that person. It really is like that.
It's very much like when we talk about the Holy Grail. It's the whole commune where Dennis is. It's like we take turns to be the operator of the week, and we vote for it. So a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of talking and nothing's being actually done. And to be fair, that's how it was in Judea at the time too.
What's very interesting about that too is it's not only culturally relevant now as it was then, just given the social political climate, but also back in again at that modern time for
in
the
79.
contemporary. No, but back when the story was actually supposed to be historically told, there were multiple like different sub factions that were in there. So even then, so now we can even see just splinter groups within splinter groups within splinter groups. Whereas like even the one guy is off by himself. Well, no, he's over there. Splitter.
I want to jump a little bit forward because Brian wants to join the group, and they're giving him a task to just write a graffiti.
How much do you
Romans
hate?
go home.
How much do you hate the Romans? A lot.
Yeah.
You're in.
I want to touch upon this because this is something that they wrote, and from all the things that they wrote, they thought this point might not go across. Now, most of the guys grew up in public schools. Now, when we say public schools, or My Feelings says public school, they mean it's for the entire public. But in the UK, public schools are actually private
schools,
a la like Hogwarts, right?
Yeah, Eton
So-
and public school boy is somebody who talks like this and went to a posh school, then eventually goes to Oxford.
And
They're public school boys.
And they said that this scene where the headmaster is like grabbing you by the ear and making you learn Latin, because Latin wasn't learned in the regular schools, just in public schools, because you're supposed to be man of the world and be, more knowledgeable. So you had to learn Latin, especially this is people who grew up in post-World War II, still in the very old way of thinking. Yeah, Andy?
I did 2 years of Latin at school.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like in regular school?
Yeah, the school I went to was basic. It was a grammar school, so it was just one step. It was kind of the school between, comprehensive school and public school. It was like you had to pass an exam to get into my school. So for the first 2 years we did Latin.
So what they said was this was very prevalent in the public school era, and they didn't know how it would translate to the US, to anywhere else in the world. And when they got it up to New York for the premiere, everybody just got this and laughed hard for this particular scene because it spoke to them like beyond what they were meaning to. They meant a specific scene, and it ended up being a really funny scene for everybody. The fact that he's writing graffiti, the guy's correcting him because of bad Latin, and when he writes the entire thing, he says, well, don't do it again.
No, well, he says, no, write it 100 times.
Yeah.
If it's not done by dawn, cut your balls off.
Yeah, and he leaves them with two guys. The two guys tell him once he finishes, don't do it again. And two other guys come in and want to arrest him. That kind of starts that whole chase that he's on, and he reaches the committee, like we said. That before he reaches there, we have that whole little bit where, what have the Romans done for us? It's like the aqueduct. Okay, the aqueduct. And they go on and on and on. It's like
medication.
Medication and like education, all that stuff. It's like, but apart from all of that, what have the Romans done for us? And before anybody else jumps in, Brian comes rushing in.
They all hide really badly as well, don't they?
And of course, this kind of leads up to him. We've seen what you've done. You're okay. You're one of us now. And they go to get Pontius Pilate. I'm moving forward because we're an hour in, and we have to finish this someday. And they do go in, and they meet the I always
The Judean People's Front.
Judean People's Front, and they were like, "No, we're gonna steal Pontius's wife. No, we're gonna steal Pontius Pilate's wife." It's like they're both infighting.
Well,
like,
which was apropos at the time, but and also like just something that these splinter groups within these kind of movements do all the time. They hate each other more than they hate their outside enemy.
and at one point, they were like, "Guys, stop fighting each other. We know who we need to fight." The other splinter group, the
People's Front of Judea.
The People's Front of Judea. And they're all like getting ready to fight, and then they continue on fighting, and they end up with like Brian's the only ones there left, and another couple of Roman soldiers are at it again, just chasing them off into where is it? Is it before or after? Oh, he gets caught.
And then he gets brought to,
And he gets to face this guy. And the jailer comes
Lucky
in and
bastard.
it spits on him. Oh, I never get a spit on me. You
if we didn't have crucifixion, this country would be a right bloody mess.
And of course, it's the same jailer. It's the Terry Gilliam jailer, where he acts stupid, but he's not really stupid. Which later comes on. And of course, he's brought to Pontius Pilate. And this is one of the funniest scenes.
And biggest dickus, who appears
know how
later.
many times I have seen this, and every time I'll watch it, I think it's the Centurion's cracking up while he's saying it.
That's what it is. Yeah,
that's what cracks me up too. And you know it's coming. I know what he's gonna say. And when the guys start to laugh, I was in tears, And what
he has a wife, you know.
Incontinentia broke me. I was a child when I saw this, and I still got the fucking joke. And all the soldiers are so like they're doubling up so fast. Like Brian is like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. By the way, did you notice the mural on the wall? It's the guy squeezing the breast out of
yeah. Well, they showed the other one too. The clear mosaic gag of how they popped up. Where it's the fig leaf from the crotch. So it's like, I got it. Okay. Well shot. Well shot.
All is on on purpose. So as Brian runs away, we have the most Terry Gilliam scene ever. The scene that I personally dislike. Really, it's the scene where he. Go ahead.
I just thought this was really out of place, and it seemed a bit unnecessary. I don't know. It's just me.
Me too. This is the most unnecessary of unnecessary scenes. I don't know where they were going for this. I tried to do all sorts of research of why this scene is there. Like I said,
the only thing I can think of is Star Wars was still quite big at the time, so I don't know if they were.
I have no idea. It's the fact that Brian is kind of climbing up a turret that hasn't been completely built, and he just knocks off the guy who builds up that last stairs, and then he falls, and he has to be saved by this random spaceship that goes away. And I said Terry Gilliam because Terry Gilliam has that sort of at the time had these weird movies that he made.
He did a lot of acid,
like dreamlike sequences and all that stuff, and it kind of carries into Meaning of Life, where
a lot of it carries. Well,
he
actually,
went fully into it. Yeah.
I know the cause of the source of this one actually.
Of the spaceship.
Yeah.
Please share.
This was actually supposed to be an entire flying circus skit that was cut, but Terry Gilliam loved it so much he fought with Terry Jones to get it in the script and shot.
The fact that it starts abruptly and it ends abruptly with just this guy coming in, it was like, oh, you lucky bastard.
Yeah.
And that just ends it, right? The whole and it leads up to Brian still, like the guards are still after him, so he goes into, like we mentioned before, into the Eric Idle, the merchant with the beard. It's like, this is worth 20. Okay, I'll pay you 20. No. You need to haggle.
But also, just before that, too, we get the shot of the Doomsayers.
Yes.
And Doomsayers slash soothsayers or slash pseudo prophets.
It's before, it's like, it's sort of weird because there's two bits where you see the gang kind of in there doing their bureaucracy thing, and it comes back around because they hide a couple of times. Once in that first scene where they talk about the Romans, and then in the other scene when the Romans are actually there doing the search. This leads off to that scene where he goes into the haggler thing, and they have that whole bit about like doing the haggle thing, and it's funny. It's just that it's, it's kind of weird. The whole scene is kind of weird where he comes in and does the haggle, but it just the thing is this. The point of this whole scene and the whole haggle stuff throughout the movie is the fact that Jesus was Jewish. He was a reformist. One of the things he wanted to reform about Judaism at the time was the fact that there were merchants like this dealing and haggling inside the temple, which was supposed to be super sacred. And
also, weren't there the tax collectors too, as well, Meph?
And tax collectors and loan sharks, all that stuff was inside the temple, and that's their sort of link to between the Judaism part and the Christianity part. That's why it's, to me, it was out of place, but I understand.
Was it the Pharisees? I think they were called.
I don't remember. They had a name for it, and it's.
I think it was the Pharisees that were allowing that to carry on inside the temple, and it was the Pharisees that JC had beef with, from what I can remember.
Yeah, I'm not well, adversed in my New Testament. But that was the big issue, and that's because Jesus kind of turned the tables on everybody, right? And really messed them up. That's why Judas was kind of convinced to betray him for 30 pieces of silver. Kind of, it comes from those merchants who their businesses were fucked because of him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the fact that, Brian comes in, they're kind of have their old thing, and I love this part.
This whole bit I love so much. Just the fact the centurion is furious that he does not take crucifixion seriously.
Exactly. He is defiant in it's okay. Crucifixion is fine. Crucifixion is a nasty way to die.
What would be the worst way? Being stabbed? No, you'll last for hours, if not days. It's like, you're a silly one. You've got a big nose.
and they go out, and then they come back. It's like, oh, we forgot to look in just the one place.
It's like, and we found a spoon.
Yeah. And they go in, and they have a second round of that crucifixion.
Because it's just the centurion wanted to come back to talk to him to convince him how bad being crucified is. That's the entire bit.
Yeah, and then they just walk out. And
the third time is I love when he opens the door and goes, "You haven't given us time to hide."
Exactly. And on that third time, Brian kind of gets pushed from that little balcony he's hiding from, and he pushes that soothsayer and putting him in that position where he's the one that he has to, fake it because there's Roman guards right there listening to everybody in that sort of like, what's that place in London called?
Speaker's Corner.
Speaker's Corner, right? Where everybody has their 5 minutes of, soothsay or whatever they want to say. And this scene with how the gourd comes into play.
Oh, I love that. This is a lovely gourd. You can have it. What's wrong with it?
I was like, let's haggle. Okay, 2 then. It's like, no, you can have it for free. And he's like, he sees the guards and he's like, oh, these are like, we have to be like a prophet or something. And he starts talking about the lilies and the sparrows, and everybody's like, don't understand him. And then he realized the Romans have left, so he just leaves. And he was in the middle of a sentence, and everybody's like starting to follow him because he hasn't finished this sentence. It's like, please finish your thought. We want to know. Because no one has done that before.
And can you remember what the first line he said was? Do not to others.
Do not
unto others as you have done
like
to yourself.
So one guy goes like, me? Oh, thanks.
And he's trying to like to explain that sentence. It's like, okay, consider the lilies. Like, consider the lilies? What are you talking about?
Well, he was talking about birds. Now he's talking about flowers.
And of course, they start to follow him. And at one point,
I love it when they lose him. And they just go, he's been taken. Oh no, there he is.
He's been taken up. No, he's there. As he loses a shoe, and then they have that discussion. It's like, no, follow the gourd, the holy gourd of Jerusalem. No, take off your shoe. The shoe is like, take off your right shoe. Let's gather all the shoes. And of course, I told you, Terry Gilliam, Terry Jones's remark about the clothes being boring. Now it comes into play. I've been waiting an hour and 12 to talk about this. No, just kidding. Okay, so Terry Jones was wearing nothing but that beard. He was completely naked. Mm-hmm. They shot this. They took about a day. They finished it throughout the day. Terry Jones had to go behind the camera to set up different shots. He did not put on pants, nor was he wearing any robes. So he was nakedly directing himself and others in that scene. And at the end of the day, they were sitting out to they were sitting for dinner, and he realized that, oh, I was naked throughout the day. That's why everybody gave me that look. Like, yes. Completely. The fact that in story mode, Brian kind of runs away, falls over onto this guy who was supposed to have a vow of silence. And now that he's broken the vow, he starts to make a racket. And Brian is like, shut up. It's like, I won't shut up after 15 years or 17 years of not talking. I'm happy. And he realizes there's a mob there, so he kind of vanishes.
Well, I do love John Cleese's version, his character in this one. He goes,
yeah.
I think this is where they had the loaves and the fishes, wasn't it? Where we're hungry, and he says, "Oh, there's some juniper berries."
There's juniper berries, right? A miracle! And the other dude is like, "No. I know a savior when I see one. Trust me. I followed a few."
And that kind of harkens back to what they were kind of studying and planning. It's like, oh, at that time there were lots of people, either false prophets or people were like just looking for a savior because they thought they were living in the worst times ever because of the Roman occupation. That kind of harkens back to what have the Romans done for us as well. It all ties in together, and they all kind of have that, the gourd and the shoe, and And the guy who says, I was blind and now I can see, but he clearly is still blind.
Falls right in the hole. And the one guy goes like, I have this bald spot.
Yes. Can you cure this bald spot? Yeah. It's like, speak to us, master. And he says, well, I'm not the Messiah. Yeah, I say you are the Messiah. Okay.
No. The true Messiah would deny his divinity. Well, then I am the Messiah. He's the Messiah.
Okay, now I am the Messiah. Now, fuck off. Yeah. It's like, how should we fuck off? How should we do this, sir? And of course, he gets away. He meets Judith, and I can't show most of that next scene. But the fact that Terry Jones's character, the not mute, but the celibate guy, gets annoyed and kind of chokes Brian, and the mob kind of takes the guy because he's a heretic.
Heretic. And of course, Meth, with how much I am intrigued by Warhammer 40K lore, all I can think of is just like some, Space Marine heretic.
Oh no! Yeah. Brian comes in, opens up the window, and everybody's waiting for him. The Messiah has woken up.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Exactly. And at the one point, she's like talking to them, and they kind of placate her at some point. It's like, the mother of the Messiah,
the Holy Mother. Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, this is good. Okay, I'll give you the Messiah."
Are you a virgin?
5 minutes.
What at the end? Are you a virgin? It's like, no, it's not a personal question. Well, what kind of question would it be? Of course, it's the most personal question.
Exactly. And of course, she kind of forces Brian to step to the stage.
You need to think for yourself. We're all different.
Yes, we are all individuals. And to me is like, yes. Have you seen 2020? I know you. I've seen you before. It happens again to me. That was my way of thinking when I saw this. But the fact that the guy's like, I'm not, and they shush him. And it's not the first time it happened through history, but it happened many, many times before. And of course, once like the mother's like, okay, it's fine, and everybody's there is disappointed. It's like, that wasn't 5 minutes. Oh, yes, it was. And it harkens back to another Monty Python skit. It's the argument skit. The one that he buys an argument.
To be fair, it's kind of like a pantomime thing. I don't know. Pantomime's a very British thing. It's a play that they have on at Christmas, and one of the big things in the pantomime is the leader. It'll be Jack and the Beanstalk or Snow White, and they'll be going, "Oh no, you didn't," and like, "Oh yes," the crowd will like, "Oh yes, you did." So it's kind of that's kind of where that comes from.
That and Andy, a lot of American comedy starting from like Fatty Arbuckle, like in the 1930s, like did a lot of pantomime, and it fed into like Abbott and Costello are really infamous for that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, especially the pantomime that we have now, probably came from like vaudeville and that kind of thing, and it still goes on now. It's still really popular.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mostly the like comedy troupes that do like ad lib shows or
mostly like improv,
that sort of thing. That
modern like Upright Citizens Brigade
evolution of it. I think so. And of course, once he's like talked to Judith, he's like, "This is the most British thing ever."
Andy, when I realized that you were from the UK, I have now just been chomping at the bit, waiting for you to say this line out loud, buddy.
Please say it, Andy.
You fucking nicked me, old beauty.
No, nothing but a true British guy can say this line. It's
I actually used to be a police officer. and
Really?
the amount of times I said to people, "You're fucking nicked." It was, yeah, it's a thing.
it's so. When you think of it, it's so not Roman thing to say. It's very, very British thing to say. It's just beautiful. And of course, throw him to the floor. That came in early, but it kind of fits with this one as well. And
Thwack him down a second time.
down
Like him,
great.
Centurion.
and by this time, Biggest Diggus is actually
there.
Yeah, he's there in the flesh.
How many do we have set for crucifixion? 139. It's a big holiday. It's Passover. It's like,
I like the fact that in
Okay,
this
gotcha.
particular, in this particular subtitles, they did switch over the R's to the W.
W's. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Release Wadwick.
yeah.
No, Wadger. What's Wadger known?
He's a wapist.
Wobbly. Wobbly is a wapist.
He's a wobber and a wapist.
And a pickpocket, and everybody goes, shut up.
But it does end up with Judith coming into like Reg and the gang. It's like, it's happening, Reg. It's really happening. And she's gets annoyed, frustrated, and leaves. And
Because this is all of them. Again, this is exactly what a lot of social political movements do. Is it's all just pointless jibber jabber. It leads to nothing. And
exactly.
so when she comes in, like, well, this calls for immediate discussion.
Exactly. Yes. New order of the day. Let's run everything up. And when she gets frustrated, it's like, this is the time to act, that we can do stuff. It's like, ugh, women. Sorry, Loretta.
Sorry, Loretta. And also, what's so odd too is they gave Loretta the job of scribing the notes too, so she's kind of the
He's the
secretary.
secretary. People of Wome. I want to get to that.
Release Brian. Brian? Do we have a Brian?
People of yeah.
Brian? No, because they thought they were mocking him because of the
Yeah.
R and W.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Brian.
We actually have a Brian, sir.
We actually have Brian. So.
Oh, we do. I shall release Brian, and still everybody's on. There's a certain point where everybody's like
Literally rolling on the floor
Floor
laughing.
laughing.
yeah, completely on the floor laughing, and they don't realize what's going on, and it harkens back to me. That harkens back to the scene where Pontius Pilate wanted to free JC, and he didn't because the people didn't want like they wanted him dead. Well, point taken towards the Jews. I'll accept it.
So it's just made me think of I'm Brian and so's my wife.
Yeah, I'm Brian.
Yeah. Because that's Mr. Cheeky. Mr. Cheeky we get during the when we have the whole.
I said I can go free. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
No. He said I can go free, and he's going to go ahead and move me to he's going to send me off to a secret island and buy him from serve and everything. He was like, really? No, I'm just having a laugh.
You know why they made that scene, right? The original thinking behind that entire bit was the Michael Palin character, because they said that it's very somber to go straight into like a crucifixion scene, or the people holding their crucifix, and they wanted they thought about, well, who's the guy in charge of everything? And it must be like a middle class Roman guy who just got this particular post in this faraway land, and that's what he's supposed to be. This low level or mid level bureaucrat, and he's like, crucifixion, good. Line on the door, out of the door, line on the left, one cross. It's like, and he keeps doing that because he's a bureaucrat, right? He's so used to people complying to him, out comes this Mr. Cheeky, and he is so happy for Mr. Cheeky because it's so far off. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna send somebody off to die, and then his hopes and dreams kind of gets crushed immediately. It's like, I'm only pulling your leg.
Also, we have Terry in this is fantastic as
Yeah,
the deaf and or mental one.
He's the deaf and matter.
And as soon as later when the Centurion John Cleese's character comes in and then they drop the bit immediately. So what were you telling me again?
Exactly. And that's the fucking comedy, because it not only do you think of these two mocking the Centurion, John Cleese's character, they're like, oh, they were doing the same with Michael Palin's character as well, right here. It's the low level
6, sir.
it's the low level guys ribbing off the middle management to me. And that's priceless. It's just priceless. All right, let's do a quick stop because we've got basically 2 scenes left. And we'll do our second game of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
Screen Fighter is where we take 2 movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good, both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with their significant other, 2 movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? First go. The Ninth Gate or Legally Blonde? Andy?
Legally Blonde every time.
All right. Reason?
I've got a huge boner for Reese Witherspoon.
Fair.
I'm going to tell the joke again, Meph. I am not going to tell the joke.
You will tell the joke because it's our show and you will tell the joke.
It's a really bad joke.
You Jew motherfucker.
That's a badder joke. Tell me the joke.
But you know this. Did you hear, Andy, did you hear about that starlet yesterday?
No.
She was brutally stabbed.
Was it Witherspoon?
Yeah. With a knife? No, with a spoon.
No ripping on Reese.
Side note, both are excellent Japanese posters, but actually I would rather watch Legally Blonde because that movie's kind of fun. Ninth Gate is actually really boring.
I hate you both. No, I don't hate you. I do like Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde 2 was too much.
A shameless cash grab.
Yeah, Legally Blonde is a very good movie. It's a very, very good movie. Ninth Gate is a personal favorite of mine. I absolutely love the movie. I watch it at least once a year, at least.
See, I was not aware of that. Huh.
I love that movie. It's very somber. It's very dark. It could have had a better ending, and I don't particularly like Emmanuelle Sinier because she is freaky. Like her entire stare is freaky, which was
He looks a bit like Hassan Piker in that photograph there. It's weird.
Yes, not really. Like once you see the movie, I don't know how long ago did you actually like go into it. He's very much Johnny Depp in it, very much. But yeah, I'll accept defeat.
Scare another one away.
Right. Knowing or Paranormal Activity?
If I had to pick one, I'd say Knowing.
Okay.
Because I hated Paranormal Activity. I can remember going to the cinema to see it on a date with a girl and falling asleep because nothing happened until the very last minute when the spook dragged her out of the bed. It wasn't scary. It was pointless. It was a waste of my time. At least in Knowing something happened, and it got Nicolas Cage in it. So it would have to be Knowing.
Oh, my feelings?
Now, see, Typically, I'm the one who always fights for the horror film, especially if they're even the more independent they are, because the original one was made for a very shoestring budget, and it shows.
Yeah, this one was made for like $22,000 or something.
But
$22.
I hate found footage. And Nicolas Cage is just chewing scenery and knowing, so it has to be knowing.
Don't get me wrong. Knowing is a terrible movie.
Oh, it's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie. There's no doubt
The
about that. But at
premise
least
of it
something
is
happened.
really bad. Like, but Nicolas Cage does Nicolas Cage things in it. I would go with knowing. I hated
It's
Paranormal
no
Activity.
Con Air, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's
It's no Mandy even, Andy.
Anyway, Remember the Titans or Lara Croft Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider all the way. I love that movie. It's
All right.
faultless.
All right. Oh, my feelings?
It depends on what time of the year it is.
What, Super Bowl time?
Yeah, Super Bowl time. Remember the Titans. Obviously.
Okay.
Which is actually, the Super Bowl's tomorrow. So.
I know.
And as we mentioned before,
who plays in it, which
we
is
were we were talking about this, Andy. Back we set up months and stuff. So we were talking about doing a football month and a baseball month. And Remember the Titans is right up there for football month. It's like it's one of the films. Like if you want to watch a movie about football, Remember the Titans is like it's top tier.
I can honestly say that I have never thought, I'd really like to watch a movie about American football. I
No, that's
don't
fair.
I don't
completely
understand
fair.
the sport at all.
No,
Why are
I
you
would.
wearing helmets?
Well, because of CTE.
Well, in rugby, you don't get a lot of CTE, but never mind.
Because
I'm
in
fine.
rugby people don't pull punches. Sorry, in rugby they actually pull punches. In
They do
football, they're
pull
like,
punches.
we actually.
They pull groins. They do all sorts of.
Well, no, they have a thing in rugby where they would actually try to not physically injure someone as much as they possibly can.
Really?
I don't
Well,
know.
never played rugby, my
what
friend.
rugby.
I mean, outside of the Aussie rules is a little bit.
I've seen guys playing rugby with broken collarbones.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Because they're fucking mental.
you know what? I love rugby. I love American football, and I love Australian football, all for different reasons, and mostly because I don't have to play those games.
But I was gonna say, to the point though, I would still rather watch Tomb Raider outside of that small window.
Outvoted again. I kind of love Remember the Titans, and I don't particularly like Lara Croft, the movie.
It's far
I think
better
it was
than the
It
sequel.
was Angelina Jolie's crowning movie. This. It was. It was
I
a
would go
great
with a
movie.
different one, but okay. I would go with Hackers.
Well, the thing is, I remember very vividly playing Tomb Raider on the PlayStation when it first came out, and it's so close to the game. It's brilliant.
I agree that the game is brilliant, and agree that the movie is very similar to the first game. From that point on, I was out. All right, A Night at the Museum or Marley and Me.
I'm gonna have to pick Night at the Museum because I cry every time I watch Marley and Me. I can't watch it.
Exactly. It's like
watch
so. Do you want to watch a movie that's going to make you bawl at the
No,
end?
Marley
or
and
do
Me
you-
is Marley and Me is the cinegraphic equivalent of a dick move. Why would
Yeah,
you
it
do
is.
that to somebody?
Yeah.
No.
I would pick Marley and Me for the same exact reason. Plus, whatever they did to Night in the Museum to Robin Williams is a travesty to humanity. That's all I'm saying. That's why I'm
That
picking
was
Marley
that
and
was
Me.
the sequel though.
But at least they didn't murder him for views.
Yeah.
Still Marley and Me. What do you pick? All my feelings.
Oh, not at the museum. Yeah.
Oh
that's-
my God. I'll vote it again. Right. One last one. So I'll feel better. Oh my God. Home Alone 3. Or
This is the sequels
Horror.
that nobody ever watched.
When Harry met Sally. When Harry met Lloyd. One is a sequel without the main original character that nobody needed to watch. And the other one is a sequel to not with the original characters that nobody ever wanted to watch.
Right, I'm going to have to hold my hand up here and say I've seen neither of these movies. But if I had to pick one to watch, I'd probably go for Dumb and Dumberer.
And you'll be dumb and dumber for doing so.
I'm gonna have to say right there, Meph, do a reroll on this one.
I'll do a reroll. I'll do a haven't seen both.
That's not fair.
Sadly I've seen both.
I've seen both too, and they're both terrible.
They're terrible movies.
Oh, this is a
Oh
good
my
one.
Okay.
God.
The Third Man or Whiplash. One is very old school and one is very new school, but
They're
it
both-
has an old school feel to it. So it's
They're both
low
fantastic
budget.
films too.
Like Whiplash is low budget, very much character and story driven. Not a lot of big hooplas not a lot of bells and whistles. Same goes for The Third Man. Andy?
I don't know. From a musician point of view, I'd probably pick Whiplash.
Okay.
Merely on that, I don't know. I mean, they're both awesome films, but if I had to toss up between the two, it'd be Whiplash.
All right. All my feelings?
I would say from a musician's perspective, I can see that because Miles Teller actually went through the drum training.
Yes.
So like, he actually did he worked with the drum tech on a lot of it. Like the work that he did is really impressive.
Well,
But
I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I can play any number of musical instruments, and the one that I have never ever been able to master is the drums. And I am absolutely fascinated by drumming, and how they
the
do it. I
drums
mean,
is something else.
I spend so many hours watching like channels like Drumeo and stuff on YouTube because
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by it. So, I mean, I mean the fact that he learnt, to do it, it blows my mind.
Feelings?
Respect.
So are you going to go with Whiplash too?
Well, I think Whiplash is a fantastic film, especially for anyone who is an aspiring musician or who is especially anyone who's interested in drumming and whatsoever. Whiplash is like one of the best drumming films ever made. The Third Man, have to go with it. It's one of my favorite films of all time. That movie is so good.
You got outvoted. It's going to be Whiplash for me.
That's fair.
It's going to be Whiplash for me.
I've been on the winning side every time. I tell you what,
What can I
I
say?
meant to ask you about this. I saw this movie the other day, Meph, and it made me think of you. And I was like, I wonder if Mephisto's seen this one, The Wild Geese.
I can't say that I have seen it. Is that a
Dude,
British movie? Because
it's got it's in the 70s. It's got Roger Moore in it, amongst many, many, many other very famous actors. And it's basically a gang of mercenaries that go over to Africa to free this warlord. You need to watch The Wild Geese.
Oh, I have seen that.
I think I'll have to look at like the poster because the poster.
Richard Burton's in that too, right?
That's it, Richard Burton.
Yeah. You'd actually really like that movie, Meph.
The poster
It's-
kind of
it's-
looks
it's-
like one of them's Lee Marvin, but probably not.
Honestly, you need to watch the movie.
I want to say I've seen it, but I don't think so. I'll watch it.
You will thank me.
Richard Harris, Hardy Kruger, Richard Burton, Roger Moore. Yeah, kind of looks like a war movie that I would have seen like a VHS rental kind of thing.
It
But yeah,
used to be on all the time at Christmas here.
well, you have to understand my kind of seasons or seasonal movies are way different because I have my American influence and I have my British influence.
Well, things have changed here a lot because of streaming, but back in the day, we only had 3 channels, and if there was something on, you watched it.
Yeah, well, we had the one channel and the one that you may want to watch. Literally one Israeli channel and one channel because everything was like antenna. The Lebanese channel, which was run by the Christian side of the Lebanese people. Sometimes you had a decent movie on. Most of the times it was the 700 Club, which is just religious stuff.
Oh wow, you got the 700 Club over there. I am so sorry for that export.
Oh, it's like yay close from being like a televangelist kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Crucifixion. Good. What, Andy?
No, I was being a televangelist.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah. You have to hold a book always with your hand, like one hand holding a book like this. And the Lord shall saith.
Oh,
Buy
I
me
just
a
realized,
jet.
Andy, that's a ghost poster behind you. Didn't
That is. I love Ghost.
Yeah, I saw them just recently in August.
I
Great
saw
cinema.
them 2 years ago when they were on the Kaiserian tour. What was the last album they did? The first song was Kaiserian. Yeah, I saw them on that tour. They were absolutely brilliant. And I know the guitarist, so
Oh, nice.
yeah.
All right.
Sorry, as an aside, it's just like I was like, before I forget.
Tangent there, but okay, I'm good. I'm all good. I'm in control, maybe. Anyway, so the guy's going on their crucifixion procession, and just before we see Mr. Cheeky is the guy that is selling crosses. That was like, let me help you
No,
shoulder.
he's not selling crosses. He's just he kind of is a seller. But if you notice the fact that the way that his makeup is set up and his hair, he's supposed to be the Christian version of Jesus with the blonde hair and the blue eyes.
Yes.
No, let me take that burden from you. Oh wait,
Let me shoulder the burden for you, brother. And it's like, oh, nice. And he just runs off.
Mr. Cheeky.
And when the guard comes in, it's like, this is not my cross. Get out of there. And Mr. Cheeky is like, oh, that'll teach you a lesson. It's like, yeah, he's gonna die. Really. That's the simple truth. And wait. There.
Oh, the People's Front of Judea.
No, not there, but it's gonna be there. At first, he's going up, and he's
He's like, oh yeah, we got plenty of time. My brother simply comes and saves me around noon.
he's like, I'm set. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm just waiting for my brother to come and rescue me. And Reg and the crew comes in.
And see there, you could see actually in that shot that you
Yeah, you
had
can
there,
see the
Mav,
nail.
the nail that was supposed to be in his palm.
Yeah. And of course, Reg comes in and he puts up this scroll and he reads to him like, what we've decided. In fact,
We are not the rescue party. We're here to celebrate you on your martyrdom.
yeah. And you're like, what the fuck? And even Judith comes in and Reg told me about your sacrifice, and I'm happy that you're doing this for us.
Well, speaking of what you said, Jew this the section where you're like, what? I'm not Jewish. I'm Assyrian. What were you? We're in the Jewish section.
Samaritan.
Samaritan. Sorry.
Samaritan. I'll get to that.
So I was confusing that with the biggest, dickest section, the
Yeah.
the Etherean Athethan.
Of course, the fact that they're like they had their piece, they're going away, and then they're turning around. It's like, for he's a jolly good fellow. For he's
It's
a jolly good it's just, it adds to the absurdity of this whole thing. And this is why it took 3 days, because they had to put in all these different parts in with them talking about, there. This is when the centurion comes in, because Pontius Pilate said, well, we're going to free Brian. It's like, who amongst you is Brian? And Mr. Cheeky's like, I'm Brian. Okay, take him off. It's like, no, I'm not Brian.
Even as they're dragging him off, he's like, I'm just having a laugh.
No, just don't free me. I'm just bugging me to you? And everybody else was like, I'm Brian, and so is my wife.
That's my wife.
That's a bit of a Spartacus moment, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And then what we discussed, the Germans. I want to get, this is perfect.
The Suicide Squad.
The Judeans People Front crack Suicide Squad. They have that little, the opening and the front where they can stab themselves to death. Of course, like I said, this is the deleted scene. They have the Jewish Star of David, but it had extra bits in it because it kind of looks like a swastika, but not really looks like a swastika.
Well, it's just the extra little tinge.
Yeah,
on every little bit on the Star of David.
What? Hang about, Meth. You keep saying this is a deleted scene.
No. This scene had an extra bit in it. So they're coming in. They're saying we're the Judeans front crack Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And then they have an exchange between themselves. So Eric Idle plays Otto.
All right. Okay.
He's talking to another guy about how are they going to take everybody down because they have to keep with the purity of the Jewish line.
Right. Okay.
He's talking about like the pure race and get rid of the Romans because we need a pure Jewish state. That's why they were like, maybe not.
Yeah.
A little too on the nose.
Yeah,
Which is already big.
And they cut that away into, we're here to like make a statement, and they kill themselves in a statement of solidarity towards his sacrifice.
Just out of interest, do you know why Jews have big noses?
No.
Because air's free.
Because it's what?
Because air is free.
That's a very old joke.
I haven't heard that one ever, but I like it. Of course,
how was copper wire invented?
Don't know.
Two Jews fighting over a penny. Why do all Jewish people have double glazing?
I'm still sick. I can't laugh.
Why do all Jewish people have double glazing?
Why?
So the kids can't hear the ice cream truck.
I will drink my tea, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Demonetized. No, I'm still monetized, by the way. But yeah, who cares? So even his mother comes in to tell him off how selfish he is for leaving his poor mother unattended at her old age. And of course, Judith comes in, and Brian is like, okay, I'm going to die. And Mr. Cheeky, not Mr. Cheeky, because he's like, Mr. Cheeky has been like pulled down.
Take it away. But it's just Eric Idle.
Yeah, it's Eric Idle, but he does Mr. Cheeky's. It's like they did it straight up without the Mr. Cheeky voice there in Tunisia, and the troupe, the other guys were like, the song is good, but it's not. It needs an extra something in it. So Eric Idle recorded himself as Mr. Cheeky there in the hotel room and played it for the guys, and they were like, now that's perfect. That's a good way to end this, as they do the song and sort of like the Mr. Cheeky Cockney voice or accent doing this as a punch to the joke. As the camera kind of pans out and you realize these people are all dead, but they're singing about life is pretty rotten. You know.
It's a piece of shit when you look at it.
When you look at it, yeah.
Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true.
And I think it's voted like the top third, like top 3 song of all time, like British song of all time, something like that. There's a list, there's tons of lists, and this one was like the most British song ever, like number 3 on that list or something like that. It's kind of weird, but yeah. To end up with this rather cheerful song, as everybody's like, they can't really dance, but they're kind of moving their hips as much as possible because they are standing on this little platform.
Well, if you notice too, like if they can't move their hips, they're actually tapping their feet.
They're tapping their feet. Yeah.
In time.
Yeah.
They
And
nailed it.
yeah, they nailed it. Exactly.
Yes.
Ended up being a gold album seller once this came like
Yeah, the soundtrack
the
was still
soundtrack
selling.
was
Yeah, that was still selling
selling-
big in the 80s. That.
yeah, it's a multi-platinum or multi-golden record, something like that.
Well, and I love it. Like when it gets to the very end, they break the fourth wall. Like, and by the way, you can buy this out.
You could buy this in the whatever, and they. I've seen it in two.
And at one point, people like, I don't even know how they're going to make back their money.
Yeah. So I said about the budget. The budget was $4 million. Just in the United States and Canada, the gross take was about $20 million. Overall, it did I think around 40, 50, something like that.
Wasn't that the total first run was? I did have this before. I couldn't because I was way too busy. It was like
Yeah.
30.7 million on the first run, which was
Yeah.
ROI was perfect. So Harrison made his money back. He got his house.
Yeah,
back.
Harrison did that. They didn't have to
think it
pay
did is-
anything to the BBC or EMI or nothing.
From what I can remember as well, when it came out on VHS, because I mean VHS was just starting to boom then. It did amazingly. I mean, you could never get it out the video shop or anything. It was always out on rent and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
it
seen it.
was-
I've only seen it on a VHS rental. I remember from the first day I saw it till 10 years later, that whole scene where he writes down like the 100 times. That scene was very dark on VHS. Like I could barely tell who it is. That's what I remember. And once it went to DVD, they've lightened that scene up a little bit.
Well, you should have gotten superior Betamax version.
The problem with Betamax, there's a certain point in my life where we live with another family. They had a Betamax, we had a VHS, and all the rentals were VHS and not Betamax.
Yeah, you know why?
The cost of the tapes.
VHS super cheap to produce.
Yeah. Yeah. And the VHS, if people don't know, the VHS kind of era burst through just because porn was
that's
the leader in that, because the tapes were so cheap.
well, that's the same.
Reproduce it would
Yeah.
they just carried it through.
Well, it's because that's also the reason why we don't have. That's why DVD craze was so huge, and that's why we don't have HD DVDs. We have Blu-rays.
Yeah. And something that Tom said on a different show, I think about 2 weeks ago, E.T., the movie, wasn't on rentals until a certain point where Spielberg said enough people have VHS, like switched over from Betamax to VHS, so we can start distributing it like full on. So there was no ET rentals until like very later on in the 80s.
I do believe it was until like what 87 or 88.
84, 5, something like that, which was 3 years after the movie came out.
Oh, I thought it was actually like near the end of the 80s. But anyway,
I don't remember exactly.
it doesn't matter.
That's a piece of information that I remember that Tom said on a different show somewhere, but it pertains to the VHS. Well, we can talk about it next week. All right, Andy, anything else to say about this movie?
No, I honestly think if if we had the time, we could probably have sat and discussed this for a good 4 or 5 hours.
Definitely.
If we're really
Yeah.
going into it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, love the movie, and it's been awesome, talking to you guys about it and hearing your little bits, and really happy I had a couple of bits to share as well, filled in some of the blanks for you.
I love it when, first of all, I always love to discuss this movie, a specific movie, with a person that really enthusiastic about that particular topic. It's sort of a different dynamic. Plus, I come from a different culture. All my feelings comes from a different culture. You come from a different culture, and we all kind of connect to this movie. Even though, yes, I know all my feelings. You didn't like it as much as the rest of them, which is fine.
I'll get to that point, but continue.
Well, you'll have your day in the sun. Don't worry. But the fact that that humor, that Monty Python humor, that particular British Oxbridge kind of humor, is transcendent through time, is capturing audience from different cultures, and they can find that bit that was funny in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of British comedy that doesn't translate, specifically to America. We had a show called The In-Betweeners. I don't know if you've seen that. And they made an American one, and that was just awful. The humor just didn't translate. But something like Monty Python, it's like an in joke, but everybody's in on the joke, and that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah. And I think to me, Life of Brian, because it was less skits, it was more a cohesive story. That's what I like about it compared to the other two. Now, to me, for many years, Holy Grail and Life of Brian were like, this one's number one and this one's number one. It's like 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it. It's really difficult to decide. It's up to the mood at the end of the day. But on the whole, a personal favorite of mine from all of them is Life of Brian. Maybe because of the context, maybe because, I don't know. I don't think it's my Jewishness in it.
For me, Life of Brian's my favorite. I mean, they're all great movies, and I mean, you can sit there and quote lines from all of them till you're blue in the face. But I think, for me, Life of Brian, not for any particular reason, it's just my favorite.
All right. Cool. And the funny bit is it actually influenced an Israeli film that I let All My Feelings watch that is kind of has that biblical theme.
Yeah, very much, yeah.
Has that biblical theme and has that Monty Python-esque way of telling a joke. And it's done by a troupe that does kind of, skits and stuff halfway between not the 9 o'clock news and Monty Python. That's sort of the SNL type group that does it. And I'll probably send you a copy of it later on, Andy.
Yeah,
and you would actually really enjoy it. Yeah.
You will have to read subtitles for it, but yeah. So All My Feelings, please let us know what's on your mind.
No, the only reason why I said this is my least favorite, and this is not really a condemnation of the film, because it's like, so one is a 95, one's a 93, and one's a 90. They're all great films. Just with this one, the cohesive narrative of it kind of, for me, took away from what Monty Python was like. When I grew up on Flying Circus. Like, my parents used to watch Flying Circus all the time, so I knew from skits and everything. And then the first Monty Python film I saw was obviously The Holy Grail, and then I saw Meaning of Life, and I saw Life of Brian last. But I've seen all three films multiple times. I think the reason why, I know this is a controversial opinion, but Meaning of Life is my favorite, is because it's so much like Flying Circus.
So more skits like, okay, I get it. All right. Anything else?
No, that's about
all right,
it.
cool. Let's wrap up. All right, Andy, please tell us where people can find you.
I've got a YouTube channel. It's quite a new one. I've had a bit of a change of direction. And the YouTube channel is called I Don't Enjoy This. And it's basically me in my elderly wizened state complaining about new music. So, yeah, if you want to go over and see me break down songs and compare them to classics, then that's the place to do it.
And where people can find you is always linked down below to find Andy. Anyway, for us, next week, ladies and gentlemen, you guys out there need to go and watch The Meaning of Life, because that's what we're going to cover next week with... It's supposed to be Tom Connors, but we will see. I'll have to remind him. Usually, it's like when I remind him, it's like, yeah, I'll be there, and he shows up. So it's going to be fun because apparently, The Meaning of Life is his favorite Monty Python movie out of the three. So we're going to have a talk about that. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. We'll see you next week. You're still here? It's over. Go home.